Hey, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Iron Sharpens Iron. I'm Matt, and today I've got a challenge for you. That challenge is based on when I feel overwhelmed, I oftentimes think of a giant problem in the totality of that one problem, and I get so scared that I can't take a step toward fixing that problem. Or I see a problem, I want things to be perfect before I start. I get stuck in that analysis paralysis where I'm constantly preparing and never planning, where I'm constantly prepping and never stepping. Does that sound like you? That's been me many times. If that's you, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, hit the like button, and listen to the rest of this video because I'm going to tell you my go to way to handle situations like that. But I need a little coffee first. First of all, shout out to City Life Church and Pastor John, my old school youth pastor, who now heads up the greatest church I've ever been to. Anyway, I love you, buddy. Thanks for motivating me on a daily basis. Whether you know it or not, you are a true hero. But when it comes to overwhelming problems, many of us look at this giant problem and we think there's no way around it. There's no way through it. And that's me many times. And that's where I've been stuck the last couple months in my life. And if that's you, I get it. Here's my solution, and here's what I think could help you get through that problem. Before I get to that, I want to ask you a very simple question. Years ago, I went to a job interview at Ask.com when Ask.com was just starting up. And a friend of mine worked there and got me a job interview. And looking back on it, maybe it could have been the greatest job ever. But the point is, their interview process was very different than any interview process I've ever been in. And they asked a couple questions that have stuck with me today, and they're logic-based questions. And when you hear them, you might laugh, you might try to answer the questions. But the very first question they asked me in this interview was, "Hey Matt, how do you eat an elephant?" And I thought about it, and I came up with a couple different answers, and ultimately I found out, I started thinking like, I don't know if I could eat an elephant, right? Like an elephant is huge. An elephant is one of the biggest creatures, if not the largest land mammal on Earth, and I'm relatively tiny in comparison. I don't think I could eat an elephant. And they were like, "Well, how? If you were going to eat an elephant, how would you eat an elephant?" And they weren't going to take. I could tell they didn't want the answer of "it's not possible." So in their world, it's possible to eat an elephant. I just had to figure out how is it possible. And then I started to think about it. I was like, well, I guess you would just take a bite, eat one bite at a time. And they're like, that is the correct answer. That is the answer we were looking for. Now, a lot of times people are like, well, I guess I would eat half of it and then I would save it and hope it doesn't go bad. And the answer of it's not possible is obviously not correct. They don't want to hear it's not possible to eat an elephant. Even if you're the tiniest person on earth, you can at least eat a tiny chunk of it. Whether you want to or not is irrelevant. Another question they asked me was, how do you put an elephant in a refrigerator? Again, I came at this question with all these parameters already in my head. How big is a refrigerator? Well, it's about 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide, 4 feet wide if it's a big refrigerator, but half of it's a freezer. And there's no way even a baby elephant would fit in a refrigerator. But I knew it's not possible is not the answer that they wanted. So I was like, I guess I would have to invent a shrink ray to shrink the elephant, or get the laser from Honey I Blew Up the Kids to make the refrigerator bigger. And then once it was big enough, I guess I'd just open the door and put it in there and shut the door. And they're like, open the door, put it in and shut the door. That's the answer, right? Like, it's very simple. It's very logical. Nobody told you how big the elephant is. Nobody told you how big the refrigerator is. Nobody told you, so when they tell you, when they ask you, how would you eat an elephant? Nobody tells you the size of anything. We bring our past experiences, we bring our past perceptions to this problem, and we put parameters on this problem and this situation that are our own making. We come up with limitations and a box that we need to operate in that maybe we don't need to stay in. And I've said it before in other videos, the only limitations in life are the ones that we choose to accept. The only limitations in your life are the ones that you choose to accept for yourself. The only limitations in my life are the ones that I've chosen to accept. So that's part of the problem right there. So my go-to way to handle any giant, overwhelming problem is simply to break it down into manageable pieces. And it's easy to look at a giant problem. It's easy to look at a problem like, I need to pay X amount of dollars, say $4,000, $3,000 for my mortgage payment or for my rent payment this month. And I don't have that money. How am I going to get all that money? And that's a very big problem on a regular basis. But if I were to break it down to how can I get some of that money, what can I do to make progress towards that goal today, it becomes a lot more manageable, because there's 30 days in a month. I only need to come up with, 1/30th of that mortgage payment or that rent payment or that car payment. I only need to come up with one small part of the solution today. Now, if I were to ask you to watch a 10-hour movie, you'd be like, Matt, that's ridiculous. How? First of all, I don't even have time to watch a 10-hour movie. I don't know what kind of life you're living, but if you got time to watch a 10-hour movie, more power to you. I wish I had your life, but I got things to do. Not only that, I don't have the attention span to watch a 10-hour movie, right? But none of us seem to have any problem whatsoever watching 10 one-hour Netflix episodes back to back to back to back, right? But if you think about a giant 10-hour movie, it's an insurmountable problem of being able to watch that movie. You'll watch, maybe an hour to 2 hours of it, then you'll have to take a break. And when you go back to watch the rest of it, you forgot where you were, so you got to rewind an hour. So now you've only seen 1 hour of it. You watch 2 hours, and then you got to stop, and then you go back an hour. And every time you take 2 steps forward, it's 1 step back. Even if you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you're still making progress of 1 step every single time you do this. But still, the point is, it's an inefficient way to do things. And Netflix seems to know this. My attention span, your attention span, most of us don't have an attention span that can watch a 10-hour movie, let alone lives that would dedicate 10 hours to do one thing. But Netflix came up with this great idea of being able to break down a giant 10-hour movie into 1-hour episodes. None of us would have an issue dedicating 1 hour to watch one episode. Some of us don't have any time dedicating 4 hours to 1-hour episodes and watching 4 of them and binge watching them, right? And each little 1-hour episode is broken out into a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's easy to spend 20 minutes getting into something. It's easy to continue that momentum with 20 minutes of getting through the middle part of it, and then the climax, and then the ending of the movie or the ending of the episode. And each episode is built into its own little 1-hour plot that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. No 2 episodes are the same, but each episode builds to this giant overall plot. And that's exactly the solution that I want to bring to you today, to show you how to handle the biggest challenges that life could bring your way. The biggest challenges life can throw at you, just like that. How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time, right? How do you put an elephant in a refrigerator? You open the door, you put it in, and you shut the door. You've got to break things down into very simple steps. And for me, that's my go-to way to handle any overwhelming problem, by breaking it down into easily manageable steps. Now, I don't know about you, but when I get stressed, when I get overwhelmed, my go-to response, my stress response, is to seclude myself and to withdraw from other people and to try to handle things on my own. And that is 100% a stress and fear-based trauma response, because I've been let down by other people in life, and I've been betrayed by other people in life. Now, I've also probably let other people down, and I've probably, in some way done something that other people perceive as betraying them. The point is, it's easy for me to seclude myself and try to do everything on my own, because either A, I won't let other people down if I do it myself. I'm the only one that gets hurt. And 2, and yes, I said A and 2 just to see if you're paying attention. And the second thing is, if I don't bring other people in and I don't rely on other people, I'm not going to be let down by other people. And ultimately, I'm probably going to have to do it my own way anyways. So it's just easier. That's my incorrect way of thinking, but that's how I operate many times. And I'm working on breaking that. But even one of the most powerful and influential people that has ever lived was Jesus, right? But Jesus surrounded himself with 12 hardcore disciples because he knew he wasn't going to be able to do what he wanted to do all by himself. And he was perfect. He was the Son of God. He was the Son of Man, all this stuff. He very easily could have probably done it all by himself. But he didn't want to, because he knew the world needed him. He knew in his earthly, fleshly man body, he needed help, but he also knew he would be able to bring up other people with him. So the second point of this video is to allow me to remind myself and to hopefully remind you that life is better lived in groups. Life is better lived with other people in a community where we can motivate each other. And that's the idea of iron sharpens iron, to bring people around us to help motivate us, but also to help motivate other people, where it's a constant give and take, where we don't slack, we don't fall behind, but we don't leave anybody else behind either. So when it comes to the overwhelming problems of life, don't get stuck in that way of thinking of this is a giant problem. I'm just going to prepare, and never actually get there. You never get there because you're always preparing. You know, I've heard it said before that you're always prepping and never stepping. And that's something that I've fallen into many times, and I want to break out of that. And the only way to do that is to remind myself that any problem in life, no matter how difficult or how big it is, can be broken down into easy to accomplish steps. You know, it's easy to see this giant problem and to get stuck in that rut of thinking. But my challenge today, the point of this video, to wrap it all up into this one point, is this: that if you want to overcome the most difficult challenges in your life, if you want to conquer the biggest problems in your life, start with what you have, where you are right now, today. Start where you are with what you have right now, today. Stop making excuses. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for things to get easier, because they're not going to change. You know, there's an old phrase that says, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always got. And life hasn't been easy up to this point for you. Probably, most likely. It hasn't been easy for me. What makes you think it's going to get easier without you changing something? So start right now. Start right here and start with what you have. So until next time, thank you for watching Iron Sharpens Iron. I'm Matt. If you could do me a favor and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with a friend, a coworker, or a loved one that you know needs some help and some encouragement today, that would help me out. I would greatly appreciate it. But until next time, start your work right now.